we are gearing up for our summer 2023 screening, which will be on July 16th at the beautiful historic Clinton Street Theater. And today I'm talking with one of our participating filmmakers. Brendan Reardon is the writer and director of a fantastic short called To Vince from Dad. Brendan, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity.
To Vince from Dad, it's a complicated film. It's there's a lot going on. There's some really interesting personal character lives that are being investigated there. What inspired you to make this film?
Well, it's kind of an interesting question because so much goes into what inspires you to create any given project. And I was thinking about it, and I really think the core of Two Vince from Dad, or at least what really got me going with the idea, is that I really wanted to explore a different perspective as it relates to bullies. Most movies and media these days like to focus on the victims in those stories, and
Right,
great, but no one had really explored what was going on in the bully's side of the story yet, like what was going on in his mind, what was going on in his life. And I
right,
wanted to go behind the scenes of the bully and see what was going on in his head. What drives a bully to be so toxic? What drives them to react in the ways they do, you know, and how they relate to the people around them, and how in a lot of ways they can be very hurtful. And so I wanted to kind of explore like what can make people turn into, the monster a bully is. And so that's really what inspired me to kind of dive deep into this subject of bullying, and figure out like what really, creates a bully from the start, and like what can we learn from that.
totally. It's very interesting. And one thing that I really like about your depiction of that is that uh, at no point does the main character, this Vince bully kid, at no point does he feel stuck. You know, there of course we have so many media depictions of the bully, but we see him making the decisions. We look into his eyes and we see before he decides to either lash out or whatever. It's very interesting. I'm wondering how did you develop that character and how did you develop that style of kind of personal exploration?
It was a long time coming, and it was actually very hard because it's a very non-linear way of telling the story, and each kind of event cascades into the next. And so I had
Right,
to be very careful in like how I portrayed that. And really, like, it was very difficult figuring out how Vince should be portrayed, because there's all different types of bullies. There's bullies who don't even know that they're being a bully, and they're just kind of, they lack emotional intelligence, and they just kind of react in ways, and it affects people, and they don't understand how they're coming across. And then there's people who just do it for spite. They just like
right.
to be mean. They just like to have the power. They just like to put down people. And and then in a lot of ways, I think there's bullies who just, I don't know, they just kind of want revenge, or they want to lash out because they're hurting inside.
Right, totally.
So it's like, where was that balance? And a lot of the research I did kind of helped. It really helped guide me in how I created Vince, and like really trying to understand like where all the data, was supporting each behavior. Like, because there's a lot of like, I feel like myths, like, the classic bully jock kid who's like
Right,
sports team, he's the quarterback and he knows everything. But like in real life, it's very different. We can all display bullying behavior at one point in life, and then maybe not. Like, it could be one instance, like we all can be affected by it. So I really wanted to be careful, and like I really wanted to humanize Vince in a way that was relatable, but not in a way that justified his behavior.
okay, totally.
Because obviously bullying is something that we want to work against and rectify. But like, how do we rectify it? Because in a lot of ways, it's easy to kind of like lash out back at the bully, like, oh, we gotta, like the classic example, oh, the kid's bullying you at the playground, you gotta stand up to him.
Right,
You
punch
know,
him back. Right.
like in a lot of ways that may be an okay route, but maybe not. Like maybe there's a better way we can deal with bullies. So I really wanted to like kind of explore the humanistic side of Vince, hopefully create some sort of sympathy for him, but not justify what he was doing.
Totally.
Did,
Um, well, I'm kind of interested. What did you learn from this process? It seems like you spent a lot of time in pre-production researching this character, and then there's many locations, outdoor locations. What was the shooting process like, and what did you learn from that?
the shooting process was very interesting. So we really, I would say, I started writing and doing research in October 2019.
Okay, wow.
So it's been a long time coming. And I didn't really finish the script till 9 months from then, um, at least to a place where I could start shooting and storyboarding from the script. And at that point, we were in the middle of 2020,
Yep.
right in the middle of the pandemic. And so, thankfully, because the cast was smaller, we were able to kind of control, the set and make sure
Okay.
safe. Everyone was not contagious with COVID or anything like that, but it did kind of slow things down. Um, but we worked it out. A lot of times, filming on location was just like 2 or 3 people. Um, Aiden, who played the character Vince, is my brother, so there was that benefit too.
Totally.
That like we could communicate fairly frequently because we're used to each other. We're brothers, So um, but yeah, like I really wanted with shooting the film, I really wanted there to be distinct um, visual looks for each scene. So there's a separate set for the party with his friends. There's a separate set for the interaction with the father and daughter on the kind of neighborhood block.
Right.
Yeah, there's a separate scene for all the fishing and those scenes, and then like the very end. I feel like it really helps give a progression to a story, especially emotionally, when you can kind of illustrate with the different sets and scenery and location
Totally.
to help emphasize the different progression points within the story. So it was probably harder than the traditional short film, which usually maybe 2 or 3 locations.
Right.
So I was a little bit more ambitious there. And it's all in the Pacific Northwest too. So I love that because
Totally. Well, actually, that one thing that I was noticing when I was watching it, because I am an Oregonian, the landscape and the region spoke so much to me, and something that I've been interested in recently, especially talking to many different short filmmakers from around the country, is do you find an inspiration? Is there a regional specificity that is happening here? Obviously the story is universal and it's not something that is firmly rooted in Oregon itself, but or the Pacific Northwest in general. But is there something, especially with the amount of outdoor scenes and the activities? I don't know if that piques any thoughts for you, but I don't know, something that I couldn't help but notice and be kind of moved by.
well, thank you, thank you. I'm really glad that you were moved by that because whether it was consciously or subconsciously, I've always loved the nature, and specifically within the Pacific Northwest. It's very close to me. I grew up in the forest when I was a kid, and so it really impacted how I view the world and stuff. And now the film was mostly shot in Southwest Washington.
Okay.
That's where I mainly have grown up my entire life. However, the end scene there's little bits and pieces where I actually went out to the Willamette Valley, Forest Grove area,
Okay. Yeah.
and especially with that with a key shot in the very end. It's a sunset, and that
Oh
was
yeah.
we couldn't find a good place to do that anywhere else, so we got lucky there.
Nice. Well, yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect. I'm curious, did you take any new insights about directing actors, especially since you had smaller crew and was working with your brother? Did you take any insights about how to direct?
Yeah, so you preparation is everything.
Hmm.
Would say like you really need to do your homework. You really need to, as a director, to do your homework and make sure you're there for your actors. You can't be on set hemming and hawing like, oh man, I don't know what to do here. Like, what am
Right,
I gonna do? Like, that because it just wastes time. It wastes their time, and that's just not respectful. So, like, really having your storyboards ready, and you can always divert from storyboards too,
right.
on what happens during the day, or if you get a creative idea. But just to have that preparation, it really helps you go through the process once you think it out before you're on set. Um, and then, um, being open to experimentation too. You know, I would try my best to write dialogue before in the script, but I would also encourage ad libbing depending on the situation. If
Oh, totally,
they could ad lib in a way that would help the emotional moment of that scene. Uh, I definitely like to explore those opportunities when I can.
totally. Well, I
Um,
think that's a very valuable insight is that, some people really want that improvisation, some people wanna feel free to experiment, but it sounds like you can still totally have a solid plan and really work on pre-production so that you can confidently go through it. Maybe it actually frees you up more to accept improv and be able to explore when you don't have to worry that it's the hem and haw of what should I actually do here.
that's
I think that's very valuable, especially with short films. You got to have that pre-production. You got to be ready.
yes.
Um, I'm curious, what are you working on next? Do you have any new short films in the works?
I'm currently working on a screenplay for my next project. I'm hoping for it to be a feature
Oh,
length
nice.
project this time. I'm still working out the kinks, but I'm thinking it's going to be like a what do you call it? It's kind of like genre. It's not specifically in one genre, but it's like this backwoods pulp action drama set within the Pacific Northwest,
Oh,
kind of
nice.
revolving around this blue collar esque character who's kind of wrestling with his self worth, his success in life, and where he's going to go from here, and and just kind of go on this almost like monomyth journey to figure out um, where he's going to go next in life, per se.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. I'd love to see more stuff from you shot out here in the Pacific Northwest, the beautiful landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about To Vince from Dad?
I think I'm good. Thank you for chatting with me. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I'm excited to see everyone at the film festival.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. It's been a real pleasure. I've learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to putting on this film on July 16th at the Oregon Short Film Festival, and I'm looking forward to meeting you there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, take care.
You too. Bye.
See ya.